many of you is this your first ever Life on Tap that you've attended? Awesome. One? Okay, we have one. Excellent. Welcome. So, you guys know the drill. I'm going to introduce our guests and then ask them a bunch of questions. They're going to tell you all about the work that they do, their experience and time here at Christendom as well. And at the end, we will have a chance for you to ask questions of them. And hopefully you guys can stick around for just a couple minutes if people want to ask you individually different things. So, sure. We will go from there. All right, so I have here to my left Stephen Pascoe, who graduated in 2021. He majored in political science and economics. While a student at Christendom, he simultaneously completed accounting courses through Northern Virginia Community College, which he will tell us all about. He began his career as an accounts payable associate for Smart Roof. He is now an investor relations operations associate for Abdeal Capital Advisors in New York City. His job primarily consists of communicating with investors, managing the firm's expenses, and preparing regulatory filings. All very exciting. He is married to Christiana and lives here in town with their baby boy, who's not here tonight. But where's Christiana?
Still putting him to bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She'll arrive later.
Yeah.
We'll say hi to
she'll
her.
be here.
Okay.
My wife is not coming.
So then we have Tim Beer, who graduated in 2013. He is the controller, not to be confused with comptroller,
Thank you.
for Sun Design Remodeling in Clifton, Virginia. After graduating from Christendom with a philosophy degree, Tim received his MBA from Northeastern University in Boston. He began his career working in the supply chain department at UTC Aerospace Systems. You'll have to give us some more information about that.
Oh yeah, big time.
Leading several strategic procurement projects. You'll also have to tell us about procurement at some
Love
point,
it.
so that's a good
So
one
good.
to know about. At Sun Design, Tim leads the accounting, supply chain, and estimating departments of the company. He manages all of the company's finances and is a key stakeholder in Sun's strategic decision-making. He lives, where did you say? Manassas. With his wife and 4 children, with 2 more on the way.
Yep, we
How
got
soon?
twins. March. So very soon.
Okay, excellent. Well, good. Well, give them a round of applause. Welcome them.
Questions?
Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. Stephen, tell us, how did you know you wanted to pursue work in finance? Why did you decide to take classes at Northern Virginia Community College? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it all really started in high school. I loved playing the video game called Counter-Strike. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar. Yeah, and in the game you have these custom knives for your character, and I thought it'd be great to have one in person on my desk. And so I bought just a plain knife and some spray paint and painted one. I ended up posting a picture of it online, and it got a lot of reactions, and a ton of people asked me if I was ever going to sell them. And so decided I would just throw it on eBay, and it ended up selling within an hour. And so then that became 2 more knives, and then 4, and then 8. And by the time I graduated high school, had sold a little over 1,300 knives to 36 countries across 6 continents, so everything except Antarctica. I tried though. And then that really made me want to work in business. And so then kind of thinking about it more, realized I didn't want to do marketing, and so I focused more on the numbers side of business, which led me to taking accounting and finance classes while I was at Christendom, and just learning about the industry as a whole. And that just kind of led me where I am today. So.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into the job that he's currently doing later.
Yeah.
So Tim, tell us, how did you get into finance?
Yeah, so mine didn't start that way. I did love Call of Duty, but I didn't sell anything with it. I'd say, you guys are all probably out there like, oh man, this guy loves numbers. Tell us why you love numbers. No, I don't. I don't know. Let's see, how did I get into it? Well, I think when I was at Christendom, I was a philosophy major, and I remember kind of not knowing what I wanted to do next, not really having any real plan my senior year of where I wanted to go. So just started kind of praying about it and looking around and interviewing for various jobs and applying to random schools, and by the grace of God, got into Northeastern University. So I got my master's degree. And I remember when I was there, they have 3 tracks, and you can do either supply chain, marketing, or finance. And of all three, finance was last on my list. Like, I hated finance. I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted to do marketing because that's what all the cool kids were doing, but everyone was doing it, so all the jobs were taken. So I resorted back to supply chain. So I did supply chain because I thought I could get a job. I was getting married and needed money. So I went from there, and grad school was awesome. They provided tons of opportunities. I mean, it was really hard, but they gave me so many opportunities for where I could go and do in my career. Networking with, big time executives weekly. It was really great for me in my career. But so I ended up going into UTC, which is at the time it was a Fortune 50 aerospace company. Working for them in their strategic sourcing supply chain department. Very fun. Not really. And so one thing led to another, and I just kind of wanted to move on, eventually make my way back down to Virginia. And again, I'm in the supply chain world. Now, when you graduate from a grad school with your master's, you have your master's in business. You're not like at Christendom, you get your bachelor's in philosophy or whatever. I was just a master's in business. So I had my master's in finance and marketing and all that. So I came down here, met a guy through the school, other business we almost started, and started running his supply chain department down here at Sun Design, and lo and behold, here I am now running the leader of the finance department here at the company. So I just think it's kind of, something you just need to be open to. Like I had no idea if you told me when I was sitting in your seat if I was going to be a finance executive, I would have said no way. Like I wanted to go play basketball. I had nothing to do with finance. But just stay open and follow. I think what the opportunities God's putting in front of you, just walk through those doors. You don't know where they're going to take you, and before you know it, you're going to be sitting here talking about finance, which is crazy. So,
can you tell us the difference, or
no.
No, you can't tell us.
No.
I already did realize that.
Yes.
But I was in EFL today. We were talking, if there are any freshmen from that class, we talked about a comptroller is different than a controller. So
It's different.
What's
a controller?
What does a controller do?
All right, I don't really know what a comptroller is. I just know we pay taxes to that guy.
Okay.
The controller is, so I manage all of the money that goes in and out. Every penny that goes in and out of the company goes through me. I approve every check, every info, everything that comes in, all the finances run through me. So all the financial statements, the reporting on all the finances, the investments of the company, whenever we have money to invest, where are we going to invest it, what business ventures do we want to go on, what are the funds we need to do it. So I work really hand in hand with like the COO and president on those kind of financial strategic decisions, as well as like the day-to-days of, at our company we have a lot of other things in my department, but that's kind of like the controller's part of my life is all of the finances run to me. Of course I have assistants who do all the bookkeeping, but all like the high level management of those finances and strategy flows through me.
And would you say that most businesses have a controller?
Yeah.
Is that a common?
Yeah, it normally goes controller, CFO.
Okay.
We don't have a CFO, so I kind of fill those.
Okay.
Yeah, but the controller is always the managing the cash in and out as well as all the financials.
Okay.
The investment side is more the CFO's stuff, but since we don't have that, that's kind of what I do too.
Okay. So then, Stephen, explain to us what you do as an investment relations?
Investor relations.
Relations.
Yeah.
And also, what is Abdeal Capital?
Yeah, so first, Abdeal Capital, it's a Manhattan-based hedge fund. We manage about $3 billion spread across roughly 500 investors. And that's split up to a lot of institutions, so like endowments or foundations, as well as high net worth individuals that are just retired and need a place to park their money. And we've primarily focused on small to mid-cap tech companies, so usually between the $1 to $10 billion market cap range. And we move very slowly because we're focused really on long-term success. So we're not shorting any companies or using leverage to make a quick buck. We're really focused on the 5 to 10 year return on investment if we really believe in a company. And so that makes us really only buy 2 or 3 companies a year, which for relative to what other companies are doing, extremely slow. But that's produced for us since inception in 2006, annualized net returns of about 16% compared to the general S&P 500 of about 10% in that same time span. So we found something that works and just keep doing that. And in terms of my day-to-day, what I do is communicate with investors on the kind of IR side of things, fielding a lot of phone calls and emails of asking for different documents, or sometimes it's just explaining what a PDF is. But it's fun. Every day is different, and that just keeps me super motivated. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. But for the most part, I love it because every day is different. So would highly recommend.
Okay, so talk to us about how you got that job.
Yeah, so when I graduated, or before I graduated, I had told Kristen and Tom McFadden that I really wanted to work in finance. And they were great, connecting me with different alumni, but had great conversations and made good connections, but just didn't materialize into a job. And so I started working at Smart Roof in their accounts payable department as soon as I graduated.
Tell them what accounts payable is.
Yeah, so accounts payable, we are paying out, we're paying for jobs to be done. So if a company would come in, a contractor would come and build the roof for us, we would process the money going out to pay them. And so I was working that job out in McLean, was commuting there every day from here in a manual car. It wasn't fun. But probably 3 or 4 months in, I was driving home from work and I got a text from Tom that just said, "Stephen, this job just popped up. It's perfect for you. You need to apply. It'll change your life." So I thought, okay.
Very serious.
And then probably an hour later, Kristen also emailed me and said, "This is the job for you." So as soon as I got home, I said, all right, I applied, and the rest is history. So I was able to go through the whole interview process, and they liked me enough to give me the job. So really worked out.
Yes, it sure did.
Yeah.
So I think I've told some of you in here, the reason I want to meet with you all and ask you all the time, what are you interested in? What do you want to be doing? Is because I have jobs that come across my desk and they tell me, this was a very important person that sent me the job, and she was like, you need to find the right person for this. And so, of course, because I had talked to Stephen so many times and knew, I actually did know the knife story. I totally forgot about that until you started saying it. I was like, I did know you sold knives on eBay. So because we had met so many times before and I knew his interest, it was so easy for me when she said, hey, we're looking for somebody to fill this role in finance. I was like, I literally told her, I have the guy for you. Just give me a couple minutes. And thankfully you followed through.
Yeah.
So I can hopefully do that for some of you as well in the future. All right, so you told us a little bit about how you got the job that you're in now and the ways that you moved around, but tell us what it is that you took advantage of when you were here at Christendom, or just kind of even in your MBA program that helped you do what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, first, I would just say what you just said about what you do. I mean, it's really important. When I was here, I don't know if anybody even knows who. I'm not that old, okay, but I remember going to our career department and not really getting too much, I didn't really know, they didn't really give me too much guidance. So it sounds like what you're doing is awesome. I would take advantage of that. Just getting a random email that you're the guy for the job would have been incredible for me. I didn't get that. Okay, what are the top opportunities? Okay, so Christendom, let me think. So when I was here, I would say the biggest thing for me, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I wasn't taking classes somewhere else. I was just kind of hanging out and playing basketball. But I think that Christendom really gave me a lot of things that I still use and then built on in different places. So, I mean, here at a minimum, the faith is the most important thing I've learned and kept with me. Use it every single day in what I do. It grounds you. So that's number one. Number two was, I think you guys say it a lot, but you don't really know that maybe it's happening. But critical thinking is something that's not necessarily out there in all the people who specialize in a track. So that's really important in the finance world because it's not just numbers. So I really lean on that. And then my community obviously is huge for me, my family, my life. There's people here who I've met through that. And that's all because of this whatever acre plot of land, right? So those three things are my foundation for sure. Then at the other opportunities, kind of like, you can call them spinning door, whatever that is, moments. So Christendom, then going to Northeastern, it was something I went kicking and screaming to, didn't want to go, but you can look back and see, wow, that was important. I mean, they put me at tables with executives multiple times a week, just eating lunch with them, grabbing a drink with them. And it was like this, but it was multiple times a week, mandatory. I had to go and sit in front of this guy and tell him who I was until I was like just so over it. I thought it was useless. It was incredible. So those were really good networking opportunities that put me at the first job I got. And then I think the coolest kind of opportunity that came my way was when I was working in Connecticut, a guy I knew here at Christendom, he was living down here in Virginia, and his dad actually wanted to start a company down here. So he knew that I wanted to move down, reached out to me, and we had investors lined up. We came down and we did like 3 days of excessive like business development. We were up till like 3 a.m., back up at 7 a.m. working on this every day. We were right there ready to go, and I was talking with my wife about it all the time, being like seriously praying because we thought this was our opportunity to finally make it back down to Virginia. And at the end of the day, it was a clear like, no, not what you're going to do. And it was like a bummer, but I told one investor like it wasn't going to happen, and he was very upset with me, and I still can't really look at him. And then, I don't know, don't watch the YouTube if you, but anyways, then the other one, the minute I told him, like the next word out of his mouth was, okay, great, cool, I have another company, you want to work at that one? And that's where I am now. So that was just awesome. You think you're walking down this path that like, this is what I got to do. Bam, the door gets shut in your face, and then another one just opened up like within minutes. So that was incredible and for me and where we are now.
Yeah, we've got to look for those things.
Yeah.
So Stephen, tell us about doing the classes on the side. And you kind of briefly said that you did that, but it's like what kind of possessed you to say, like, I'm also going to take classes somewhere else while I'm studying here at Christendom?
Yeah.
And what did that actually look like?
Yeah. The classes themselves were very condensed online, 6-week, almost boot camps.
Okay.
And I got the idea just because my second semester junior year, COVID happened, and so everything went remote. And when one door closes, another opens. My local community college started offering online classes, especially in these very condensed forms. And I found myself with a lot more time, kind of figured I wanted to work in finance or accounting. And so I just decided to take these classes. They were completely at your own pace, fully online, recorded lectures. So you can find time to take them. And so took a few of them that spring, and then that summer, and then during my senior year. By my second semester, I was just doing a thesis and politics practica with Dr. Bersnack. And so I had a lot of time and just grinding out those classes. And I think that really set me apart just because of the kind of limitations of what Christendom offers in terms of the classes, just because there isn't that traditional finance or accounting work. And so being able to have that on my resume, show that I've taken this relevant coursework, I think was a really big step. And so highly recommend it.
And if you can't do classes outside of Christendom, we do have the LinkedIn Learning courses, and there are a ton that are focused on finance. There are ones that are just called Finance Foundations, Accounting Foundations. Find some of those to lay the groundwork, at least, if you're interested in pursuing this.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go to your day-to-day. What does that look like for you? Because we sometimes have an idea of what it means to work in finance, or now that we know what a controller is, what that might look like. But tell us, and then of course, Stephen, you said every day is different. Do you feel like every day is different? Is it the same? Give us the rundown.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely different. I wouldn't say like at what I do, we have like tasks that I'm expected to do every day. But so in my, I lead the department. So there's multiple things in my department. We got accounting proper. I also have supply chain and estimating. So I'm kind of running 3 departments. So from the estimating side, I mean, we're a construction company. So every estimate that goes out to our clients goes through me and my department. So we have a couple estimators that I'm managing. I manage a team of people. That's pretty like, I'm constantly on the phone with our subcontractors and negotiating pricing with them and all that kind of stuff. So negotiating is a huge part of what I do. I'm negotiating at all times, every day. And it's always for cheaper. And then, so that's kind of like the estimating side. The supply chain side, we have like procurement, which is just purchasing. It's another name for purchasing. So I have a purchasing agent, I think her title is, purchasing agent, who she does all the purchasing, everything we buy at every job site, even for our office, she buys. So I have to manage all of the purchasing of the company, all the estimates, and then the strategic side of that is like who we want to buy from. So I'm always trying to figure out like, is this vendor or supplier the right fit for us and our culture and what we're trying to do? They get our mission. That's all that. And then on the controller side, I mean, the day-to-day is honestly like I'm in lots of kind of executive level meetings with people talking about the controller side is like strategy, cash flow, and like tomorrow is our big financial review. That's me meeting with the two owners and the COO, and we go over all of the finances and where we're at. That's kind of like the peak of the month when I can get through that. That's when you can finally exhale. But you're preparing everything to get to that moment so that all the numbers are right and that you have the right story, the whys. You can't just say like, hey, this is our revenue, this is our net, deal with it. You know, you got to kind of tell them exactly why, what happened, was it good, was it bad, what can we do about it, where are we going, where were we, you know. So it's the whole story. They expect every answer. You can't just say like, hey, I'll circle back on that. No, you got to know there. So that's kind of a lot of preparing for that. And then weekly, it's just, like he said, there's accounts payable. So you have accounts payable and then you have accounts receivable. So we're paying vendors every week and, you know, receiving money every day and all those kinds of things. So cutting checks and making sure we have money in the account, which sounds easy, is not always easy. That's pretty stressful. Like, do we have enough money today or tomorrow, you know? So that's a lot. Every day, the first thing I do in the morning at 5 a.m. is I check the bank accounts, where are we at, you know? We have multiple bank accounts, seeing where all the money is. Do we have to move money around to make it all happen? I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's super helpful. So I think oftentimes we think of finance and we're like, oh, spreadsheets, you know, and you just look at a computer all day. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of phone calls and you're meeting with people, and there's probably spreadsheets.
There's definitely spreadsheets, but there's an awful lot of phone calls and meetings and negotiating and what's going on. And, you know, when you see something, I got to like track it all the way down to its roots. So I don't just sit in front of a computer, but do work from home, which is cool.
You do?
That's the other thing. Yeah.
Excellent. That is really nice. And you also work from home.
I do,
He does not work in New York City, even though the company is in New York City. So tell us a little about your day today.
Yeah, like I just kind of touched on, it's mostly communicating with investors, but it's also on the kind of ops side of the business, reconciling our books. One thing we have to do is keep a set of shadow books that just kind of back up what our fund administrator does to make sure that they're not slipping up, just because the SEC, when you're working in investments, really breathes down your neck. And so you have to make sure every T is crossed and I is dotted. And so it's a lot of Excel work with that, but it is fun. And then on a kind of weekly and monthly, quarterly basis, I've got all sorts of different tasks that I have to do. And then kind of annually, different filings. And so right now we're in kind of peak tax season. So every year we produce what's called Schedule K-1s for our investors, just for them to use to file their taxes. And I run that whole process. And so it's making sure that every piece of the investor's information is correct on our form, and that we're not issuing a K-1 with faulty information just because the SEC doesn't take too kindly to that. So it's a lot of checking work on the ops side, and then on the investor relations side, it's just communicating with our investors. Sometimes they'll just call and have a quick tax question that turns into a 15, 20-minute call about their favorite place to go surfing. And I'm thinking, this probably will never apply to me, but great to hear. Yeah. But it's really fun, just building these relationships with our investors, where they'll call and just ask how my son Gabriel's doing, and because they always hear him in the background babbling away. So every day is different, and it's really fun.
So both of you talk about working from home. You've always been remote. Have you always been remote?
No.
Okay.
No.
Talk about that transition. And did that happen with COVID?
Yeah, it was COVID, and I have a Gabriel too. So.
Okay.
It was COVID. So my daughter was born March 2020, I should know this, March 5th, 2020. And That was like the week of the shutdowns. So
Yeah.
I was going to work, I took off like 2 days of work, and then I was going to work from home for a week. That was kind of like my plan. And then I never went back. It was kind of like we went hybrid, went home at that point. And then as a company, we just realized, our COO lives in San Diego, so we kind of were already outfitted for that. And then our company just realized we were able to still be efficient and get the work out while allowing people to work from home, come in when they wanted. I mean, you do lose a little bit of the culture that they're trying to build, so we had to make some concessions for that. But for me, working from home is like, I love it. It's a huge benefit in my eyes, because I do have a lot of kids and I'm having more coming. So it's just good to be able to get out, and when I'm done, go help them, or like I like to work at 5 a.m. and then be done, take the kids to school, and then continue on my day. And that way it's much harder to do that when you're in the office, you know. I can't really help my twin pregnant wife bring kids to school while I have to get to the office at 7. So
Sure.
that's been huge for our family life, at least.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about yours.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I was hired in September 2021. So my company as a whole had already gone through the switch to remote work, and that kind of made them realize that they can take on a few more people and operate fully remote. So I started, it's kind of a hybrid of going up 1 week out of every month. So I would just kind of fly up Monday morning and fly out Friday night to just be around the office, see people, still doing the same work, but get to see people. And now, since having a kid, I'm now pretty much fully remote. I'll go up occasionally, maybe once a quarter. But it's worked out really well. It is the best to just be at your house. There's a lot more stuff you can get done. I will say you can't take it for granted. There's a big push for return to office just because companies are seeing a kind of downturn in productivity, and so it's really important to still take it seriously, even if you're at home and if you roll out of bed and start work, make sure you're bringing it your all as if you were in the office.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And I do think a lot of people want remote jobs, and I've talked to so many students about it, and they're kind of hard to come by for entry level. You know, like definitely. It was like you were already doing the work, and you guys transitioned to it, and your company had already done that before you got on. So it is kind of difficult to find sometimes, but that's great to hear that's working out. So
yeah, we don't hire people new to go remote. You got to at least be here 3 months, and we see that you can manage it before we're going to let you go remote now.
Okay, that's very good to know. Okay, what was my question I was going to ask you all?
Sorry, I threw you off.
No, that's again. Sorry. Tell me about a time that you all struggled in your job. Like, what was hard? Tell us a story about something, or just tell us how you got through it.
You want to go first?
You can go for it.
I mean, I struggle all the time, so this is an easy one. I think there's probably 2 big ones, though, in my life. So at my first job at UTC, now it's called, I don't even know what it's called now. It's gone through so many changes, but the easiest way to say what we did was Boeing made the shell of an airplane. We made everything inside of it with a wire. So literally from the cockpit to the tail, we pretty much made it. The airflow was us. So we were a huge company, and the regulations required in getting an airplane in the air is crazy. And I mean, you can't breathe without asking them if you can. So when I first started there, I was the data guy, and I didn't have the benefit. I think you guys have like an Excel class and stuff like that. It's awesome. I did not know how to use Excel. I was hired as the data guy, and I remember my boss the first day coming up and asking me to make a pivot table of something, something, something. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I had no idea. I immediately just started Googling what the heck he just asked me. And I just sat there watching YouTube videos. Every time he came around, I just switched to Excel and act like I wasn't. And I just sweat my brains out for months trying to figure out the words coming out of this man's mouth. So the beginning was really a challenge. And then once I graduated out of that, it was like, okay, now I'm leading projects. Like we had to move $6 million worth of manufacturing from New York to Mexico. Well, moving it from America to Mexico, there's a lot of restrictions. And some of them the president literally mandates is made in America, which they didn't tell me. I didn't know. So I thought I was going to jail for a bit. It was crazy. And there was like not enough like hand holding to let me know what I was doing wrong. It was very stressful. That time at UTC was something. And I'd say if I didn't have God, I don't know what I would have done, man. Like that really, I learned so much by dealing with that failure. I mean, it was a failure, and it taught me a lot. So now flash forward, I ran the supply chain here at Sun Design and then became the controller. So I went from being what I would have considered a master at what I was doing to then, being an executive and not having any idea what I was doing again, right? Like at this point in time, I still did not like finance in my mind. So, but now I'm leading finance and the expectations were the same where they expected me to know everything, but now with senior leadership expectations behind it, right? And that was its own new set of stress. Every time they asked me those questions in the financial review and I didn't know where we were going and what, and like now I know how to answer all those, but every time they asked a question, I would just felt like I was getting punched in the face, right? And it was, if I didn't have that first failure, it really would have made the second one just as challenging. But I'd learned so much about how to deal with that and how to like pick yourself up off the mat, give it all to God, and it's gonna be, it works out. Those were two, I think, huge ones that I dealt with. And you're going to deal with a lot as you go through it. Nobody is not a failure in one way or another. So,
thank you for sharing.
yeah, there's a lot.
All right.
Yeah, I would say my first tax season, I was only there for about 4 months, and they were saying, all right, here's what you got to get done by mid-March is these K1s need to be ready to go. And I underestimated just how much time it takes of all the checking and everything. And so it was hard to keep up with those deadlines right away and just kind of thrown to the wolves. But I learned so much from that as well because, you're not going to go into any job just perfect right out the get-go. And so it is how you can pick yourself back up and what you can learn from that. And now, into my 4th time around with this tax season, I feel like I've got it. But you're still always learning every day, and so it's just what you do with that. So
That's true. That's very true. All right, you talked about giving it all to God when things go wrong.
Uh-oh.
So talk to us about how your faith plays a role in your work. Obviously, the companies you work for are not faith-based at all. I don't know if you work with other Catholics or other Christians, and how does kind of your faith play a role in the work that you do, the actual stuff that you do, and your coworkers and the relationships that you have with them?
yeah,
You got it.
I mean, I'm really blessed. My company, there's 17 of us, so it's very small, and I like to say it's unofficially Catholic. But everyone shares the same values, and a lot of our investors are the same way. And so that just being surrounded by those kind of people, I feel just really elevates all of our work as a whole. And it just makes it that more enjoyable, and it makes it a real focal point of everything that we're doing. So whether that's just conversations around the office, which not having too many of, but or just like I said, just the work that we do and my routine conversations with investors, just knowing that we have that in common, it's really great. So very blessed for that.
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
What about you, Tim?
Yeah, so I met the president of this company through like a Christendom connection. So he is a Catholic guy out in Manassas, and it's very minimum like networking to him. The faith, obviously my faith helped me there. I will say there's obviously a few other Catholics, but I'll go to, there's St. Clair's in Clifton. I'm sure some of you guys know where that is. I'll go to that mass at 8 in the morning, and he's right there. When I first started, I was always like, you got to be in the office at 7:30. Beat your boss to work. I was always like, beat your boss to work. Leave after him, beat him there. And then I realized, like, my boss is going to mass. Maybe I'll just go to mass. I think he'd find that more impressive. So going to mass with him at 8 a.m. in the morning is awesome. But I'd say beyond, like, the work community of it, which we have a few, it's 65, and there's probably 5 Catholics. But I think, like, it is my foundation. So, everything I do is through my faith. And if I didn't have that, what am I doing? I mean, life's hard. Work is hard. I don't ever leave work not exhausted. My family life's hard. I got a lot of kids. Managing all that is hard. Being emotionally present for them is hard. Spiritually, physically present for them. You got a 2-year-old who doesn't care that you worked all day, but he needs to wrestle. So you got to be there. You got to wrestle with him, even though you are dead tired and need a beer. And then you have friends after that. You know, all the people you're going to meet here, you're going to see forever after. A lot of them you'll see forever after you're the people you're sitting next to now, and then some that are sitting 3 rows up that you don't even talk to are going to be in your life. And you're going to be there for them and for people you don't even know yet. So there's a lot that calls on you as you grow and your network gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I didn't have my faith, I think I would definitely give up. I think that's the only thing that gets me through it. Like, this is my why, right? And I think, like, you can easily, even leaving here, get caught in the, like, who makes the most money, who makes the least money. That's the most important thing, and it's not, right? If you don't have that perspective, you're going to get caught in a tailspin of, he does this, why am I only here? And that can lead you down some bad paths. So without that, I'd go down that path easily. I know myself. I struggle with greed, and I would walk right down that road if I didn't have my faith. So I don't know if that answered it how you wanted, but that's what I got.
Hey, you answer it how you need to. That was very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let's go to some practical stuff. So if these students are interested in becoming a controller, doing investor relations, working in any part of, oh, he's picking out people. Are you here to recruit?
Yes, Georgia wants to be a controller, I know it.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll get to that one too. But tell us, what are some practical things they can be doing right now to set themselves up for a career in finance?
You go. You're doing good going first.
Yeah, I mean, working, if you really want to work particularly in investments, I would say you don't necessarily need the classroom, but if you can just familiarize yourself with everything, trade on the stock market, watch YouTube videos, or read books about the industry, just constantly take in knowledge about it. And if you want to really learn trading, you don't need to be investing your whole life savings. There's great tools out there, especially something called paper trading, where you're trading kind of with fake money, but it's following the real stock market. And so you can see, if you had $1 million to invest right now, how would you have done? And that can be a really great resource where you're getting hands-on experience, and it's something you can do for free. And then YouTube, you know, there's so many videos out there. You can just watch them forever, and just learn from people, and it can take you very far. So definitely take advantage of that.
And you did classes, right?
Yeah, in classes. Yeah.
So I think those are good practical things for sure. I guess the only thing I could even add to that is, let's just say you're out here right now and you have no idea if you want to do finance, so why would you necessarily get started right now? I'd say you will need finance in your life. Whether you like it or not, you need finance. I mean, whether you're single or married, you need money to live in this world. So it's in your best interest to learn something about finance. You don't need to necessarily take classes, but I think you should start with getting your own finances in order. Like, know them, know what it means, know what I would say you should read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a very easy read. It will change your perspective on what you should be purchasing in your life and what you should be pursuing. There's things called assets and liabilities, and Rich Dad Poor Dad goes through that whole thing, and you should really focus your life on acquiring assets and not liabilities, right? And so get your own finances in order. Obviously doing those things if you know you want to go the finance track, for sure. But even if you don't, figure out, how much am I spending, how much do I make? There's finance is like a language. I always tell people Excel is like a language. It makes no sense. And then all of a sudden, that one day, it just clicks, and you can speak the language, and you can't explain it, but you can. Finance is the same way. There are trillions of dollars floating above your head right now, going back and forth through people's phones. You're going to just find a way to put your hand up and grab some of them, right? So you just need to learn a little bit of how that money is flowing around the world and how you can control a tiny little bit of it. And then from there, if you want to move into finance, corporate finance just takes personal finance, maximizes it, and puts professional words around it. So if you can manage that, you can handle yourself at the big level.
Okay, yeah. And I actually had a conversation with a senior last semester and was talking about investing and finances and budgeting and that kind of thing. And I realized, I was explaining to him what kinds of accounts he needs right now set up, a checking account, a savings account, an investment account. And it's like, oh yeah, you all don't know this stuff. So I might be doing a budgeting and finances workshop this semester. We'll see if I can fit it into the schedule.
I'd say be careful of a savings account. You make like no money on it though.
Yes,
Okay?
that's very true.
Don't get too caught up. Like my parents said, savings account. No. There's other stuff.
Well, because back in the day,
That was what you did. You make 0.01%. Congrats. Here's your $250 a month.
Yes. So
crazy.
we'll talk about that.
So figure that stuff out. You can make real money doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, so I'll bring you back maybe for that thing, for that event that we do. So tell me about networking. So we've talked a little bit about it, but are you networking now? Are you thinking about where you're going in the future? Like what's next for you? Or are you at a good place right now? Or is that kind of always on your mind?
How about you?
All right, I'll go first this time. But I get to think while you talk. Okay, networking for me. So yeah, I am networking. I think it's a different kind of networking. I'm not going to as many corporate events and sitting around a table. I mean, there's definitely those. But I would say networking is a huge part of where you want to go. Now my networking is like all these kids at Holy Family out here know. Like I'm at a lot of Holy Family stuff. I feel like I'm trying to build that network of people. Not necessarily for jobs, but for other reasons. But anyways, networking for like my first job, you know, when I was at grad school and I went to get my job at UTC, like I said, it's a Fortune 50 company. They think that means they are like God. And there were about 100 of us in the class. And some of those people, I was like a 23-year-old fresh out of Christendom, had a philosophy degree kid, competing against people who were 35, who'd already had entire careers before they got there. One guy owned a franchise of restaurants in Hong Kong, and I'm trying to get a job against him, and I am like, what? So the only way, honestly, I got my job, I had like 8 interviews, back to back to back to back, and the job that I ended up getting, I sat down with the VP, and she went to, I think it was St. Ambrose College in, I think New Hampshire is where that is. And she was the captain of the soccer team and the center back. And I was like, well, I'm the captain of the soccer team and I'm the center back. And we spent the whole time talking about soccer. And there you go, I got hired. It had nothing to do with like anything. She just knew I was a culture fit. And honestly, that's a lot of what hiring is. Are you a culture fit? Like there's parts of a job that is trainable. If you have a base level of the expertise they're asking, they can pretty much train you to get to where they want you to be. But if they know that you have the cultural fit in the team and you're a hard worker, that's what they're really looking for in those interviews. And at that point, she knew we fit. And then obviously my whole story about, you know, that company we almost started, I mean, that was just the 3 days of networking with one guy that I didn't know I was doing. But that's how I got that job. I wasn't even interviewing, and the next thing I know, I had a job offer. And he created the position for me. So that was all networking. That wasn't filling a job. It was just like, hey, I know I need this kid in my company somewhere, do that, you know.
It happens.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I was lucky enough, networking-wise, to get my job just because of Kristen and Tom. So wouldn't be here without them. So definitely take advantage of that.
You asked this question for a shout out from him.
Yeah. But now, just with the nature of my work, it's constantly networking, and it's providing just white glove service to all of our investors, and that just leads to this real personal connection with them, where they feel they can just pick up the phone and call, rather than sending a quick email. If they want to just give me a call and then see how everything's going instead. It's really one of my favorite parts of the job. But so just constantly networking, and I forget where I was going with that.
You nailed it.
I'm happy with where I am now. You know,
Yes.
I luckily, don't feel like I'm kind of trapped and that I need to find what's next. I do envision myself where I'm at long term, but it's still fun to network with these investors. And I'm always happy to talk to students like you guys, or kind of people in similar roles as me working in the same industry. It's always fun to see what their day-to-day life is like and kind of share notes. So
Yeah, talk shop.
yeah, exactly.
So tell us about the internships at Abdeel, and then I'd love to know, we haven't talked about this, but do you all ever offer internships, and are you hiring?
Yeah, so we have a summer internship program where we typically hire 3 to 6 interns a summer, and you work directly with our analysts studying the same companies that we're looking to invest in or are invested in, So you're getting real hands-on experience with what Abdiel does. And it's a full summer, I think it's a 12-week program. It is in person in New York, so you would have to kind of temporarily relocate, but we help you out with that. And then what you're paid for the internship is more than covers that. So it's a great experience, especially just even if you're not entirely sure what you want to do. You learn really valuable work from that. And then if you do a good job and we like you, then you get a return offer for once you graduate. And so it can really set you up for, by the time when you're a junior, entering your senior year in high school, you've already got a job lined up for when you graduate and working in a great industry for a great company. So we're wrapping up recruiting for this summer's program. The deadline is in mid-February, so you've got like 2 weeks to apply if you are interested. But we will shortly after be opening up 2026's internship program, so in early March. So if you've got plans for the summer already, or if you're a sophomore now, then if you just wait a couple weeks, maybe set a little reminder, highly encourage you to apply, and apply early, because that can really get you a good head start. So.
And why are Christendom students good candidates for this position?
Yeah, Christendom students are the phenomenal candidate just because I think Christendom does a really great job at teaching you how to think critically. And you kind of touched on it earlier, but it's like, it's something that is kind of taken for granted. It's not automatic for everyone. And when I first started at my job, I started kind of working with our recruiting side of it. I do a lot less of it now. Still have a bit of a hand in it, like right now. But I used to do a lot more, and I would see candidates that were a 4.0 from Harvard, but they were just unimpressive and didn't show that they could think. And Christendom just offers, it develops you so much more with that kind of intangible skill. So
and I think,
should definitely apply.
Yes, and I remember from when we've posted them before, there's no major requirement. Like all majors are accepted, they look for liberal arts students, so don't be afraid to apply even though it's a finance firm or investment firm that you're applying to. Yeah,
I would say half, if not more, of the people at my company, it's a small company, it's 17 people, but a majority of us didn't major in finance. That was political science. Some of my colleagues, one is a degree in classical piano, another in childhood studies. So we just kind of gather all walks of life and we make it work.
Tim, do you all ever offer internships for college students?
So I don't have nearly as good an answer as that. No, we don't really do the internships. We are hiring, but it's more on like the production design and sales side. The finance side isn't really hiring as much. But we're a construction company, so we have design needs, sales per people needs, and obviously the production department. But no cool internships. Sounds awesome.
It seems very cool. Yes, up in New York City. Who wouldn't want to go spend a summer in New York City, right? Nobody? No? Yes? We've got one?
And one last thing I'll say is we don't exclusively hire from our internship program. So if you're a senior now, we're always looking for new analysts. We don't hire too frequently, but we're always accepting applications. And so all that information can be found on our website. I've got some cards if any of you guys are interested, but should definitely apply. It'd be fun to work with another Christendom student or grad because I work with one other Franciscan guy, and anytime Franciscan beats Christendom in rugby, I never hear the end of it. So I know. So I need someone else to back me up.
I thought that didn't happen.
You rugby guys
Frank.
need to make it happen.
Didn't it happen that Franciscan won this past year, right? Come on, Chris.
No, nobody's willing to admit. Okay, so why don't you guys leave us with a last kind of tip for achieving success, or something you wish you had known before you went into finance, or something you wish you had known when you were their age, and then we'll turn it over to you all to ask some questions.
I can go if you want. Go for it. All right, I'll try not to be too long-winded, I think. Let me try to...
You've got a lot to say.
I don't know, I ramble, so... I think success, it's so broad. I think success is like so many ways you can define it, but I personally believe you're not going to have external success, what we would call that, if your internal self is in kind of chaos. So, as far as like tips, my wife and I, through our marriage, we've had a lot of what we call aha moments. And, I'll say them to you guys right now, and you'll think they're obvious because you've heard them said before, but actually doing them is the hard part. The first, I've said it a bunch tonight, you're going to think I'm corny, but the first thing is your prayer life needs to be like on point. When you guys are here, I don't want to downplay it, but it's really easy to have a good prayer life, and you should have a good prayer life. You guys should be going to Mass every day. You should be going to the chapel as often, right? As often as possible. All those kinds of things, because it's right there. You can wake up and walk there. But when you leave and you have kids, you got to get out for school, you got to get to your job, then you get home, and then you got to take care of them. It's a lot harder to do all those things if you don't really build that habit now. So really build a habit that is the most important thing, your prayer life, whether you're going to church every day, rosary every day, reading the Bible, morning reflections. Find a church that is actually challenging to you and not just fulfilling a Sunday obligation. Those were big things we changed in our life that honestly after that kind of everything else fell into place. After that, personal finances was a big one. Everybody tells you, I'm sure in your life, your parents tell you to budget and you roll your eyes and say, yeah, Mom, I know. But, I think there's a difference between saying you kind of budget and actually budgeting. You need to know what comes in, what goes out, and really keep track of that. I don't know what you do, but I track my net worth monthly. I track my expenses weekly. I know every penny. Because there was a time when we were dang, we can't pay for tuition for our kids. What are we going to do? You don't want to get to that point. That's not a fun point to be at. So beat that, That was big when we figured that whole thing out. After that, I'd say, I won't touch on this too much, but I do think health's important. I was big into sports here, and I worked out twice a day, and I ate a sleeve of Oreos, and then I graduated, stopped working out, ate a sleeve of Oreos, gained 55 pounds. That stinks. You don't want to do that. Don't go there, stay away from there. And then I'd say, I guess when you go in your job and you want to succeed, when you finally land the job, really I think I'd only say a couple things, just work hard every day, even if you hate it. If you love your job, work hard. If you hate your job, work hard. Because, if you bust your tail, other opportunities are going to show up. Your boss sees it. Somebody else who doesn't work there right now sees it. But if you are slacking off and everybody knows you don't care, you're not going to get those opportunities, and you're going to be that guy at a reunion that's just complaining about his job, and no one likes that guy. So work hard. And then I'd say, be extremely respectful. There's a lot of people who come straight out of college who think they know everything. Be respectful and humble when you first start. So bust your tail, but be humble while doing it. And it's noticed. People don't say it every day because people only ever talk about negative. That's much easier. But they notice when you do that. So I don't know. That's, I guess, all I'd say.
I love all those.
Yeah, I think everything Tim said is spot on. The one thing I'll add is just constantly be learning and look for anything new you can find. And if you don't know what you want to do when you graduate, just kind of take off the horse blinders and look around and really discern every possible option, because most of my friends, and really me too, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I graduated. There's some people that had every duck in a row, but at the end of the day, I didn't know exactly that I wanted to do this and that I would end up in this situation. So just constantly be learning, and a good way to do that, just set aggressive goals for yourself, and you'll kind of learn a lot more about yourself. So, and that'll translate very well into the workplace as well. There's this kind of concept called OKRs. There's a book called Measure What Matters by John Doerr, and that really will teach you how to bring everything together. And faith isn't part of the book, but you can really implement faith yourself. Highly recommend it. And you can make yourself the best version of yourself, and people will notice that, and that'll get you really far. So, definitely.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, what questions do you all have? Who's got a question? Sunny, we've got up here.
Stop.
Do you have backlers?
Yes. Thank you all both for sharing. I just wanted to ask, how did your education in ethics and morality, especially Mr. Beer being a philosophy major, help you in your day-to-day work life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Kind of like I've already said, my faith and morality kind of like go hand in hand. That's everything I do. Now, I will say there are a lot of ethical decisions I make throughout a day, whether or not how you want to treat people, because a lot of people can take things very personally. And, there's people I work with, won't name anybody, and they can be, they see stuff very black and white. This is, we have a process, and they didn't follow this process. So you know what? I'm not paying them for 2 weeks. Well, it's harder than you may think it is to realize, got it, but they've got mouths to feed at home, right? Like they missed that process. We need to tell them they missed the process, but we will handle this in a way that is best for them, and at the end of the day, best for us. There's a lot of decisions you'll face throughout a day that can be, black or white, you're wrong. But what I face a lot of is this guy submitted a change order wrong. He's asking for money way quicker than he's supposed to, or this is, and you try to take all of that who's right, who's wrong out of it, and just kind of focus on what is the right thing to do for that person, for the company. You got to gel them both. But I'd say that I do honestly daily, try to wade through the muck and the noise of screaming at me what is right. Hey, this is right, that's right. And you just have to part the Red Sea and find what you think is the right thing to do,
Next question.
It's a two-part question. Have either of you ever considered getting an MBA? And
Yes.
then when in someone's career journey do you think is a good idea based on their circumstances to possibly pursue getting an MBA?
I have an easy answer. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, Chris. Yeah, for a large portion of my time at Christendom, I thought that I needed to get an MBA and that that's what I wanted to do. And ultimately, I found out that that wasn't necessary. I didn't need that kind of extra schooling. And in some part was because I was able to take these a lot cheaper and quicker classes while I was at Christendom. So it was kind of like a mini MBA, so to speak. But specifically in kind of my industry of investments, there's a ton of different certifications you can get that don't require an MBA. So if you want to become a chartered financial analyst or certified financial planner, there's all sorts of different certifications that your major doesn't matter, whatever you're graduating with now at Christendom.
And you can do those at night, and that's a lot of people get those, and a lot of jobs will require those certifications.
A lot of companies that will pay for them as well. So they'll encourage you to do that. So it can be something that you're benefiting from, but the company is as well, and so they'll really encourage it.
So I did get my MBA.
Did you go straight from Christendom?
I went
to
right from
MBA?
Christendom to get my MBA.
Okay.
Not NBA, I wish. And I think it was weird. I think if you want to go to grad school and you want to look, I would say there's lists out there, top 50 schools. And I think at the time Northeastern was on it. I think it's off of it now. But honestly, the thing that is the most important to me, and I would imagine you, is they always have a rating on getting a job after. That's what no offense, I didn't really care about the curriculum. I wanted to get a job. So that was really the most important thing when I picked Northeastern, and they were really good at that. Like I said, they focused on networking. I networked ad nauseum to get jobs. That was incredible. So if you're looking for a grad school, I would say do that. I also think it's, at least when I applied, which wasn't that long ago, Georgia, it was very competitive to get in. I applied to a bunch of schools, and only Northeastern accepted me, and I'll be honest, and that was the best school I applied to. Everybody else said no. And to be honest, I think the only reason I got in is those weird backward diversity they wanted, because I was this weird philosophy liberal arts kid, and they already had franchise managers from Hong Kong. So they were like, hey, let's get this weirdo. I think that's why, I got it, and it was awesome. So Christendom brought me that. I spent that whole interview explaining how great Christendom was, because you had to do an interview to get it. And that is, I firmly believe, what nailed me Northeastern, because nobody else gave me the interview. They saw that, and they're like, he's different. They brought me in, and then I got it. But I think when you want to do it, like some of those people who waited till they were like 35 were doing it for a career change. I was really doing it because I didn't know what career I wanted to go into. So I think it's really personal when you want to do it, but I don't know, I would focus on who gets the best, like what's the return on jobs after as the primary focus for me.
Great question. All right. Do you have a question? Come on, you raised your hand. All right. Who else has a question?
Oh, thank you all very much. You did mention, in terms of like getting a job, there are a lot of different certifications you can do. But one thing that I had heard just from talking to other people is that a lot of them you kind of have to like have a job to start with, and the company like sponsors you to get it. And so I don't know if you have any tips for like skills or that kind of thing that you want to get like an entry level job.
Yeah, so if you don't have the certifications,
Yeah.
how do you get the job that's going to pay for the certifications?
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, you always have to start somewhere, kind of at the bottom of the totem pole, and mostly, generally, those certifications come later down the line, whether it's through your current employer or you're in between jobs and want to start or you want to start your own firm, something like that. But in terms of getting your foot in the door, I'd say it just starts with your own personal education, whether it's in the classroom or just like I mentioned, kind of on your own time. There's so many great resources out there, and then networking. That people say, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. It's very true. So if you can kind of strengthen that and get all your ducks in a row and build up your foundational knowledge, you can very easily find your way. I won't say very easily. It'll allow you to get your foot in the door. So,
Yeah, I don't even think I have much to add to that. I would agree. I was going to say networking and learn what you can now. And then, don't give up. Keep applying, keep going, meeting people. And in terms of if you want someone to pay for your sponsor you, you're probably going to be looking for more of the bigger companies rather than a small company around here. So if that's one of your goals, you're probably going to be wanting to go for, a larger Fortune 500 kind of company that's got those pockets, that's like a benefit they give. Other smaller companies, it requires more wiggling because they don't have those deep pockets. It's no disservice to them. It's just they don't have what those guys have.
Other questions? All the way up here, Sunny. We do have to have it on the microphone so they can hear it on the video.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, I would say you could just shout.
Thank you guys for talking. When you did your classes while you were attending Christendom, did you do an accounting track at your community college, or how did you choose what classes to take based on what you wanted to do?
yeah, that's a great question. I didn't meet with an advisor or anything. I had done, because I was homeschooled in high school, I'd done what's called dual enrollment, so I was taking these community college classes while I was in high school, so I was already set up with the college, and so I was able to just log on to the portal and sign up for classes. And so, I just filtered for accounting and found Accounting 101 and took that, and then 102 and so on and so forth. It's kind of close to an associate's degree. I was counting up the credits I have. So it was technically on track for a degree there, but it was more so for my own personal gain of learning about that. And it was something to put on my resume to show that I took these courses.
All the
Yeah.
classes you took were accounting.
No, they're not all accounting. So I took 10 classes, probably 6 of them were accounting and 4 were finance. They obviously have overlap between them and what you're learning, but it was kind of a split of both because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And right after I graduated, I worked in accounting, and then this job came along. But just kind of wanted to cover my bases, learn broadly about the industry, because both fields work simultaneously. And so it's good to know from both perspectives.
And if you're not aware, at a lot of schools, and particularly community colleges, you can sign up for classes as what's called a non-degree seeking student. You're not going there necessarily to get a full bachelor's degree or an associate's degree. You are not seeking a degree, but you can take classes. So if you ever want to do that, come see me and I can help you figure out how to do that at whatever school you're looking at. All right, do we have other questions? Yes. Raise your hand again. Oh, you don't have a question? No, you're
Nice.
just, okay.
Pump fake.
John over here has one.
It's a pump fake.
Thank you both for coming. I was wondering if you could touch on maybe one or two things that you think set you apart in the interview process of finding jobs, because that's something we certainly talk about in AFL. And I was wondering if you could just maybe say one or two things that, you know, Christendom students do well or that you think you did well.
So I'll just, the interviews I had, I think the one I bombed, they asked me like who I thought a great leader was, and I said Tom Brady. Don't do that. It didn't work. I didn't get a call back. That was a true story, didn't work, so don't do that one. The ones I nailed, honestly, were just being personal with the person. Like the one to get into Northeastern, that was all about why I was different than everybody else, like what this liberal arts degree means. Like, honestly, a person up in Boston, I really didn't understand what it was. So I explained the importance of the critical thinking and the why philosophy doesn't mean I'm going to become a teacher necessarily, right? Certainly you can, but that's not what I have to do. So setting myself apart with that, I think, was really big for me at Northeastern. And then for my next one, I mean, I had networked with that company that at UTC. I had been to multiple dinners with the VPs and multiple like cocktail hours with them. And I mean, I'm an introvert and I don't like doing that. So that was not fun. But I did it, you know, I bit the bullet and did it, and then got in that interview and kind of had already done my homework, realized what I needed to do, and, you know, we talked soccer. Then my one for where I am now, I mean, that was really about 3 days of not even knowing I was interviewing and just being present and being, like I said, busting my tail, right? I mean, he saw that in the 3 days where we were trying to build a company together, and then, yeah, that's all I needed to see, right?
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that. I would say make the personal connection. 'Cause at the end of the day, they're not thinking just, can this person get the job done, but they're thinking, do I want to work with this person and see them every day? So
Yeah.
really important to make that connection and just be yourself, as cliche as that sounds.
Absolutely.
Okay, other questions? No questions about crypto?
I thought you were going to ask Wall Street Bets
Investing.
questions, GME,
Where should you be putting your money?
Diamond Hands.
Okay, you'll do that individually, right? Okay, well,
They're like diamond hands.
if there are no more questions, please give our guests a round of applause. Thank you so much for being here.